What happens when the weight of global issues lands on the campus grounds? Today we delve into the rising tide of college protests over Israel's war in Gaza. As the world grappled with the escalating conflict between Israel and Palestine, an unexpected front opened up. College campuses. It all started with a ripple. A UC Berkeley academic, Victoria Huyn, decided to offer her students extra credit for attending pro-Palestinian protests or lobbying Congress about Gaza. The move was seen by some as a chance for students to learn about and engage with a pressing global issue. But for others, it was an alarming instance of academic bias. The ripple quickly turned into a wave. Screenshots of the email circulated online, sparking accusations of anti-Semitism and bias. The university swiftly responded, offering students alternative options for extra credit. But the damage was done. The incident ignited a series of debates and divisions on college campuses across the United States. To understand these protests, it's crucial to grasp the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This decades-long dispute over territory and national identity has resulted in countless casualties and has sparked international outrage. The war in Gaza in particular has led to a surge in global protests and a rise in hate crimes. Now this conflict has found its way onto college campuses, with students organizing protests and rallies, and even lobbying Congress about Gaza. But why are students so invested in this conflict? Well, many students see themselves as global citizens, with a responsibility to raise their voices against perceived injustices no matter where they occur. They view their campuses as a platform to advocate for change. However, there's a thin line between advocacy and bias, and some believe that line has been crossed. As the conflict in the Middle East escalated, so too did the tensions on college campuses, leading to a wave of protests and controversies. But these protests didn't come without backlash. Let's discuss the controversy and the consequences. On the West Coast, a dinner at the home of Berkeley Law Dean Erwin Chemerinsky turned into a hotbed of controversy. A protest by Muslim law student Malik Afaneh led to an unexpected confrontation. Accusations of assault and suppression of free speech flew, with advocacy groups like Berkeley Law Students for Justice in Palestine and the National Lawyers Guild calling for disciplinary action against the dean and his wife. On the other side, organizations like the American Jewish Committee and the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression raised concerns about the incident's impact on free speech and campus activism. But the controversy wasn't limited to California. Over on the East Coast, a Columbia University professor, Joseph Massad, found himself in the eye of a storm. His praise of Hamas's attacks on Israel as awesome and astounding sparked a student-led petition for his removal that gathered over 34,000 signatures. The controversy put free speech and academic freedom under the microscope, with concerns about the potential endangerment of Jewish and Israeli students on campus. These incidents underscore the divisive and volatile nature of campus politics. Students involved in organizations with differing views on the war found themselves grappling with repercussions that extended beyond the classroom. They were thrust into the public eye, their views scrutinized, their actions criticized. It wasn't just about getting an education anymore. It was about navigating a minefield of political ideologies, about standing up for what they believed in, often at great personal cost. As these controversies raged, the line between free speech and hate speech began to blur. The once peaceful grounds of these campuses transformed, becoming battlegrounds for clashing ideologies. College, a place once dedicated to learning and personal growth, was now a stage for political warfare. The line between free speech and hate speech began to blur, and the campus grounds became a battlefield of ideologies. The impact of these protests reached far beyond the political sphere, affecting the very fabric of campus life. As students rallied behind their causes, it was not just their voices that were amplified, but also the lawlessness that sometimes followed in their wake. A surge in disruptive behaviors on campuses was noted. Vandalism, disturbances during academic sessions, and even instances of physical altercations began to mar the reputation of these institutions. The once peaceful alleys of academia now echoed with the sounds of dissent and discord. The rise in lawlessness was not a byproduct of the students' passion for their cause, but rather it was a consequence of the polarization that these issues brought about. To keep the peace and ensure the safety of students and staff alike, many institutions had to resort to implementing strict measures. Curfews were enforced, restricting students' movements after certain hours. In some extreme cases, campuses were even closed down temporarily. These measures, while necessary for security, greatly impacted the daily lives of students, restricting their academic and social activities. But the impact was not just physical. These events turned colleges into political stages. Debates, discussions, and academic discourse were sidelined, replaced by political rhetoric and partisan debates. The focus shifted from education to activism, from learning to lobbying. Classrooms became battlegrounds of ideologies and students unwitting soldiers of their causes. This shift was not without its consequences. The quality of education suffered. Teachers found themselves in the middle of these conflicts, their roles changing from educators to mediators. The once vibrant academic discussions were now overshadowed by political debates, reducing the quality of education and hindering academic progress. The students, too, were not immune to these changes. The constant exposure to these conflicts, the pressure to pick a side, and the disruption of their academic lives had a profound effect on their mental health. The college experience, which was supposed to be a journey of discovery and growth, was now a journey of conflict and tension. The academic sanctuary was no longer immune to the chaos of the outside world. Campuses became stages for political drama, impacting student life and academic progress. The impact was tangible, real, and far-reaching. And as the dust settled, one thing was clear. The face of academia was changing and the future uncertain. With the rise of these protests, the face of academia began to change. As we delve into this transformation, it's essential to understand how the focus on political issues has begun to overshadow academic development. Traditionally, universities have been considered bastions of knowledge, places where curious minds converge to learn, innovate, and push the boundaries of understanding. But today, a new narrative is unfolding. The classrooms that once echoed with debates on literature, science, and philosophy now pulsate with discussions on political ideologies and social doctrines. This shift has had a profound impact on the quality of students and teachers alike. In an environment where political activism takes precedence, academic pursuits can often take a back seat. Students, instead of being molded into critical thinkers and problem solvers, are becoming foot soldiers in ideological battles. Teachers, instead of being mentors, guiding intellectual growth, are being perceived as influencers promoting their own political leanings. Consider the teaching methods and course content. They are no longer just tools to impart knowledge, but vehicles to propagate political viewpoints. Courses are being tailored not just to educate, but to indoctrinate. This politicization of academia has led to a decline in intellectual diversity, stifling academic freedom and creating an environment of intellectual homogeneity. And how has this affected student behavior? Well, it's led to a rise in campus activism, yes, but it's also spurred a surge in lawlessness and intolerance. Students are resorting to protests and demonstrations, sometimes violent, to express their dissent or support for their causes. The peaceful exchange of ideas, the very cornerstone of academic institutions, is being replaced by a culture of confrontation. The transformation is not just limited to the physical spaces of academia, it's reshaping the very ethos of education, altering its purpose from being a journey of intellectual discovery to a platform for political activism. The rise of these protests has undeniably left an indelible mark on academia, changing its face and its future. As we navigate this new era, it's crucial to remember that the soul of academia lies in the pursuit of knowledge, and that must never be compromised. So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for college protests? A question that echoes in the halls of academia as the landscape of college protests continues to evolve. As we look into the crystal ball, we see a future shaped by a multitude of factors. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, for instance, continues to fuel protests across campuses worldwide. The flames of this age-old dispute have found kindling in the hearts of college students who, armed with their ideals and the power of their voices, take to the streets in support of the cause they believe in. Yet, with every protest, the line between activism and disruption blurs a little more. The increasing politicization of college campuses is another crucial factor. Today, colleges are not just centers of learning, but also arenas for political discourse. Debates and protests have become as commonplace as lectures and seminars. Yet there's a growing concern that this overt politicization is detracting from the primary goal of education. Then there's the changing face of academia. With a new generation of students and educators, the dynamics of college protests are shifting. While some argue that these protests contribute to a vibrant, engaged student body, others worry about the degradation of academic quality and an increase in lawlessness. And this brings us to the question, should there be a ban on political protests on campuses? A ban might restore order and refocus attention on academics, but at what cost? Would it not stifle the voices of students, undermining the very principles of democracy and free speech that we hold dear? As we look to the future, the only certainty is that the intersection of academia and politics will continue to be a hotbed for debate and controversy. The question remains, how will we navigate this complex landscape?